Concept of power in international relations. Introduction. In the previous study session, we discussed the 3 levels of analysis used in the study of international politics. In this study session, we will examine power to be the core concept of international relations in the world's politics. We will discuss the meaning of power, its characteristics and elements. Learning outcomes. When you have studied this study session, you should be able to explain the concept of power, analyze the characteristics of power, discuss the elements of power. Concept of power. One major factor that determines how successfully a state can relate in the international system is power. International relations depend a lot on power. Like many other concepts in the social sciences, there is no agreement among social scientists on a definition of power. It means different things to different people. In general terms, power is considered as the ability of one person to control the actions of another person. It is the ability to get others to do what you want, even if they do not want to do so. In international relations, the concept of power is often used to describe the level of resources, degree of capabilities, and the extent of influence states have in the international affairs. However, let us consider some of the definitions of power put forward by political scientists. According to John Roque, power is a political resource which encompasses the sum of the various events that allow one country to have its interest prevail over the interests of another country. To Hans Morgenthau, power may comprise anything that establishes and maintains the control of man over man. Thus, power covers all social relationships which serve that end, from political violence to the most subtle psychological ties by which one mind controls another. And according to Remy Anifowoshe, power refers to the relations of subordination and superordination that exists among nations pursuing conflicting goals. Daniel S. Park, in his book, Contemporary International Relations, defines power as the ability of any actor to persuade, influence, force, or otherwise induce another actor to undertake an action or change an objective that the latter would otherwise prefer not to do. In international relations, the concept of power is often used to describe the level of resources, the degree of capabilities, and the extent of influence states have in international affairs. From the above, you could see that power has to do with control, and it can imply that even where voluntary compliance may not be forthcoming, force may be employed. In other words, power can be used to change the actions of others or to control the behavior of another state. A good example is the 1997-1998 confrontation between America and Iraq in relation to the inspection team of the United States weapon. Iraq had insisted that the UN team could not visit some sites, including presidential buildings, within its territory, claiming that would violate the sovereignty of Iraq. America insisted that Iraq must comply with UN resolutions by allowing the inspection team to visit anywhere they might wish within Iraq. To make Iraq comply, America deployed sophisticated warships and submarines to the Gulf. To prevent war, Iraq reluctantly allowed the inspection team to inspect the presidential buildings. This exemplified the fact that the decisions of America to exhibit its military might was a major factor in making Iraq comply. Power is a political resource which encompasses the sum of the various elements that allow one country to have its interests prevail over the interests of another country. Characteristics of power. Let us now examine some of the characteristics of power. Power is dynamic. Power is not static. It is constantly undergoing changes. In the international system, empires have been known to rise and fall. Some states were considered very powerful in recent past, but they are no longer as powerful as before for various reasons, or they may not even be in existence anymore. For instance, the Roman Empire lasted nearly 5 centuries, but is no longer in existence. Also, after the Second World War, the Union of Socialist Soviet Republics, USSR, was a superpower along with the USA until the disintegration of the USSR in 1991. B. Power is relative. For a country to be described as powerful, it has to be compared to another or other countries. For example, Nigeria can be described as powerful when it is compared with other states in Africa and possibly some weaker third world countries. But Nigeria cannot be described as being powerful when compared with the United States of America and some European countries. C. Power is situational. A state's power varies depending on the situation or context in which it is applied. In other words, the response or action of a state in particular situation does not really mean that that is its total capability. D. Power is relational. Power involves relationships. It is exercised with respect to others. A state can have power over some other states only when it can overcome the state in question or get it to do what it would not ordinarily do. According to Dar's conception of power, A has power over B to the extent that he can get B to do something that B would not otherwise do. E. Power is both objective and subjective. Objective power consists of assets that you objectively possess and that you have both the capacity and the will to use, while subjective power is based on others' perceptions of your current or potential power. Elements of power. In international relations, the power of a state is based on a number of elements. This is further divided into tangible and non-tangible elements. The tangible elements include geography, people, economy, technology, military expenditure, etc. While the non-tangible elements include quality of political leadership, public morale, information and communication technology. Some of these will be examined below. Geography. The geography of a country is critical to its power capabilities, as well as its relations with the other countries in the world. The geographic factors include the size, shape, and location, climatic conditions, and natural endowments, including mineral resources. For example, the capacity of a landlocked country to act extensively in international politics will be limited by the difficulty or expenses involved in transportation systems. They would otherwise have to rely on states that have access to the sea to reduce the cost and time. However, the cooperation of such states with ready access to the sea is determined by their own interest. In other words, landlocked countries usually find it difficult to wield power. A favorable geographic location results in tremendous economic and strategic advantages. For example, the United States enjoys significant advantages due to its location. It has friendly neighbors on its northern and southern borders and is separated from Europe and Asia by large oceans. These factors allow the United States to shape its national policies in relative freedom from external pressures. In addition, the location of a country can determine the extent of its security or vulnerability to enemy attack. Also, a country like Niger, which is landlocked, will have to depend to a large extent on a country like Nigeria for a lot of things. A favorable geographic location results in tremendous economic and strategic advantages. Landlocked countries usually find it difficult to wield power. People. This has to do with the state's human characteristics. The size of a country's population can be positive or negative. On the positive side, when a country's population is large, it often translates to greater capacity for power. It is likely that that country will be able to have a large supply of military personnel and necessary manpower. But on the negative side, a country with a large population needs to have enough resources to feed its teeming population. This is because the larger the population, the higher the demand on food supply and other raw materials. Also, the age distribution of the population is very important. A country with a large number of its population in the productive years, 15 to 65, which is the working age years, stands at an advantage over others with a large percentage of the aged. Likewise, an educated population is also important. However, the fact that a country has a large population does not mean automatically that it is powerful. Otherwise, countries like India should have been more powerful than America. Also, a malnourished population or a disloyal and disunited population is more of a liability than an asset to any country. A country with a large number of population in the productive years 15 to 65, which is the working age years, stands at an advantage over others with a large percentage of the aged. Military capabilities. This is a crucial element of power. Every country maintains a military. In situations where diplomacy fails, it is often the ability of the military that a country relies on for survival. This is why many countries spend a sizable proportion of their budgets in training and equipping their armed forces. Many countries have also developed nuclear weapons in order to protect their territories in the events of war. For example, after the September 11 attacks on America, more and more countries are spending more money on acquiring state-of-the-art military capabilities. One way of estimating the power potentials of states is by comparing the amount of money they spend on military capabilities. The ability of a country to deploy its armed forces outside its own territorial boundaries is crucial in its relations with others in the international arena. The fact that a country has a large population does not mean that automatically it is powerful. Otherwise, countries like India should have been more powerful than America. Also, a malnourished population or a disloyal and disunited population is more of a liability than an asset to any country. Quality of leadership. The quality of a country's leadership is also an important element of power. A country with an accountable and effective government and good leadership stands a better chance of influencing and controlling events in the international arena. A very powerful country without a good leadership is more likely to make more enemies than friends and would also most likely put its country in danger. Information and communication technology. The information and communication capabilities of a country are very important in its relations with other countries. The world is in the midst of information and communication revolution. The enhancement of these capabilities increases a country's efficiency and effectiveness in almost all areas and will put it an advantage over other countries that are still struggling in the area of information and communication technology. In essence, therefore, power is very important in international relations. It determines to a large extent how countries in the world relate with each other. Study session summary. In this study session, we focused on the concepts of power in the international system. Power can be described as a multifaceted, ever-changing political resource and a sum of various elements that allow a country to have its interest prevail over the interest of another country. Some of the characteristics of power include the following. Power is dynamic. Power is relative. Power is situational. Power is relational. Power is both subjective and objective. The elements of power include geography, people, economy, technology, military capabilities, and quality of political leadership, public morale, and information and communication technology. With this, we come to the end of study session 3. Thanks for listening.